This episode of Lobbing Scorchers is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based seller. Not only are they a local company, but they've been supporting independent Seattle soccer media since 2011 and are run by Sounders fans. They offer the best boutique wines in the world to members of their mailing list with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Their model is simple. 1, they email compelling offers. 2, you request bottles that sound appealing. 3, your wine arrives at their Soto warehouse and is ready for pickup or shipping. Their Soto tasting room is also open to the public. If you're interested in joining their mailing list or learning more about them, visit fullpullwines.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 66 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Lillianwall. I got producer Noah here with me. And Noah, we have a very dumb and stupid pod to record tonight. How are you feeling?
Well, a lot of our podcasts are dumb and stupid, but this one might be the dumbest and stupidest.
It's true. It's not really out of the ordinary for us, but that's right, folks. We're going to be diving into the Seattle Sounders home matchup against the San Jose Earthquakes, the worst team in MLS at Lumen Field last night.
Unless they're playing the Sounders.
Unless they're playing the Sounders, in which case, apparently, they're like the best team in the league, I guess. Seattle takes a 2-2 draw. That's right. Jordan Morris scored a brace, but Seattle conceded a goal near the beginning of the game and right at the end of the game, which relinquished a 2-1 lead and forces the Sounders to settle for a point. So we got a draw pod tonight. Someone on Twitter said we should call it a Tide pod. Which
Tide pod? I like that. Kind of funny, that's pretty good.
But I like draw pod because it kind of rhymes. So anyway, we got a draw pod. We're going to break down the draw in our game review. We're going to hit your questions. We got our agenda check as always, and we're going to jump around MLS at the end of the show, do some winners and losers. So, not the greatest result for the Seattle Sounders, but I'm still looking forward to the game review and to the whole show. It's going to be a good show. But before we get into all that, I wanted to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. That's sounderatheart.com/LS. Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. As always, we'd like to thank all of our paid subs. Noah, would you like to read the list this week? I kind of like it when you read the list.
Yeah, I mean, I've become the list reader.
I think you're the list reader now. I also don't have it pulled up. So,
not all of us can be as prepared as producer Noah over here, but someone also said that we were pronouncing their name wrong. So I told them to, if any supporters, if we're pronouncing your name wrong, shoot us a message. You can email us at lobbingscorchers@justoncemedia.com. We'll correct it. We'll get it right. We're not the smartest in the bunch, but they also didn't get back to me in time for recording this. So if we are messing it up again, apologies in advance. But let's get into this. Thank you all. Subscribers, here we go. Kenneth Wade, Joey Pasquinelli, David McCoy, Owen Mason, Daniel Pavado, Samuel Fout, Ian Mitchell, Christopher Smith, Norm Bontier, Thomas Martin, Greg Hoker, Chris Maley, Andy Hill, Mike Lentini, Nate Bontier, David Rodriguez, CJ and Miles Marinakis,
my nephews,
Mark Ottinger, Zach Heckman, David Pope, Brian Morton, Claire Berger, Robert Sink, Tyler Nakatsu, Steve Hudson, Choska, Patrick Sexton, John Hammaker, Amon Mbach, Justin Walker, Jay Anders, Ryan Shane, Nathan Jones.
Damn, that's becoming a pretty long list. I'm not going to lie. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate the support. And if you're listening to this and you haven't done so yet, please sub to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. Noah, the drive to 550 is complete. We're at like 553, I believe, which means the drive to 600 is now alive and well. So all you have to do is go click subscribe. Really, 1,000 is what I want on the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. So help us get there. But first, before we can talk about that, we got to get to 600.
Milestones, baby.
All right, enough of that. Let's get into this game review, Noah, because as unfortunate as the final result was, I feel like there's still a lot to talk about.
For sure.
San Jose Earthquakes, like I said, they're the worst team in MLS record-wise. They're going to wooden spoon this year. They have won 5 games all year going into this game. So with Seattle right in the thick of the playoff race and fighting for positioning, we talked about this on one of the last shows, but this was a golden opportunity for Seattle to really, they took care of business against the club of professional wrestling enthusiasts. You have the worst team in the league coming to town midweek for the next game. A dub here, and They had a chance. Colorado dropped points last night. LAFC dropped points last night. The Galaxy lost.
There was a point where the Sounders were ahead of LAFC on the table.
And they were up to third, I believe, at one point when they were ahead. Yeah, on the live standings. So anyway. This was a chance to make a play, make a play on the table like we've been talking about for a while. And needless to say, they were not really able to capitalize on the opportunity. Two really bad concessions in this game. Let's start with the first one because, when you're the home team playing the worst team in MLS, ideally you want to be the team scoring inside the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game. And unfortunately, San Jose turned out to be the team that scored 15 minutes into the game in highly unfortunate, but definitely undeniably comedic fashion.
Correct.
I'm not going to lie. This was kind of like a Three Stooges type of goal that Seattle conceded here. Pellegrino, not the fizzy water, the San Jose Earthquakes winger. That was a bad joke, but
I giggled. Not audibly, but I giggled.
I didn't plan that one. That was
off the cuff.
That was off
okay.
cuff. That was off cuff.
Get this man not at club
fizzy,
comedy.
Not the fizzy water, the Norwegian winger for the San Jose Earthquakes. He didn't really do all that much. What happened was
it's like when you leave it open. You open your fizzy water and you leave it out.
Yeah,
at first it tastes good and then it gets flat.
Exactly. Christian Espinoza sends a ball into the box. And, I feel like a lot could have been done differently from Seattle's perspective on this play. When a ball comes into the box like that, your goal is to clear it out of the box and not let them shoot if at all possible. And the Sounders were not able to do that. I think the blame was twofold on this play. You can tell me if you see it any differently. But Stephen Fry came off his line, I think, when he didn't need to. He got kind of caught in between coming off his line to try and get the ball, and then Pellegrino, before Stephen Fry could get to it to punch it or catch it, he was able to head it down, straight down, and Steph was just kind of caught in no man's land. And then I don't really know what Christian was doing. What he tried to do was the box out maneuver that he did against Tim Melia.
Yes.
On the famous, he was doing that maneuver, but like he really, I don't know why he was doing that. He should have just cleared it.
Yeah,
he could have. It looked to me like he had a chance to just kick it instead of boxing the guy out. I think maybe he was trying to be like overly safe with it and box the guy out before he cleared it then. But like he was just trying to box out Pellegrino, but he just stuck his leg out and was able to convert it into like an open net pretty easily. So yeah, just like a really bad goal to concede, especially that at that point in the game when you're trying to get on the front foot and assert your dominance as the home team, to concede that goal and go behind, it's definitely a pretty terrible start to the game. But actually, honestly, at that point, I wasn't really tripping. Like,
not at all.
You have the rest of the game to come back against the San Jose Earthquakes, who they are a little like the Chicago Fire in the sense that if they get a lead, they would love nothing more than to give it up, and that's exactly what they did 6 minutes later.
Minus 31 GD, ladies and gentlemen.
Negative 31 GD and
67 goals against.
5 wins all season. They've conceded 67 goals. So yeah, it was never really that much of a doubt in my mind that Seattle would tie the game eventually, but they ended up doing it 6 minutes later. Jordan Morris, if there's a bright spot from this game, it's that his good run of form kept right on rolling. But this was another pretty bad goal, honestly.
Yeah.
It's started as a lot of Seattle's goals lately have, with Albert Rusnak free kick into the box that deflected out to Obed. Obed sent it back into the mixer, and then the Quakes guy was trying to clear it, and he just smashed it off of De La Vega's face.
Yep.
And it went off De La Vega's face and right to Jordan, and Jordan is able to finish it for the equalizer. The thing that I thought was funny about this goal was that De La Vega got an assist for that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Like, we were debating in the press box whether he should be credited with one for that. And I said no. I feel like if it's that clear that they were not trying to, like, he was literally just standing there.
Yeah. And
the ball hit him in the face with him having no time to react to it, and it just happened to bounce to Jordan. He was definitely not willfully making that pass. But, I guess there's something to be said for being in the right place at the right time.
That's true. For me, I feel like it's the perfect first Sounders assist for him.
Yeah.
Like, his first goal was a penalty goal, and now his first assist is him just getting blasted in the face with a ball. Like, is that not like the perfect De La Vega first assist?
No, you're exactly right, because especially because he's scored a couple of these goals that are just like the insane technical quality, world-class ability, the exact type of like talent that you expect when you make a signing like this, and they keep getting waved off.
Right.
And then the first time after those plays that he gets a stat sheet contribution that counts, it's because he was just standing there and a guy smashes the ball off his face, and he does get the assist. So Seattle a little fortunate there, but they were really on top of San Jose for most of the first half and most of the game, really, which is why this result is even more frustrating. Like, I definitely didn't come out of this game thinking that the Quakes are like in Seattle's weight class quality wise, but that's why you can't let a team like that hang around, because this is what happens. Seattle takes the lead in the 39th minute. Jordan Morris again. Now, this was a Lobbing Scorchers goal. You had a Paul Rothrock assist.
Well, they did take it away from him. No! Unfortunately, I hate to report to you, Ari, the MLS ruthless goblins have stolen away a Paul Rothrock assist because it went off of a defender. So he canonically has one, and it was, I guess you could technically count it as a secondary assist, but on the stat sheet, it will not count. I know there were people disappointed because I didn't tweet out a Paul Rothrock lobster for that assist, but it was taken off the score sheet, so I could not, in good conscience, tweet that out.
The oligarchs have robbed our boy of his assist. See, this is, not to get like too into the rule book, but I have a bone to pick with that. That's an assist.
Yeah.
Like he sent in the ball that I don't care that it hit defender. Like, the end result was it getting to the striker off his delivery. How's that not an assist? That's just I understand that that's the rule, but I think that's a dumb rule, and not just because it robbed a Paul Rothrock assist. I would say that if it was robbing anybody of that assist.
I say it simply because it robbed a Paul Rothrock assist.
And that's fair.
So
that's realistically why I'm saying it too, but I do think he should have gotten an assist there. Either way, he got the assist in our hearts, and he did send in the service that resulted in the goal. But this was really, honestly, this play was all about Jordan. He like set himself up. He basically he controlled the cross after it deflected to himself, and then basically set himself up for like a mini volley.
Yeah, it was kind of nasty.
It was nasty.
It was
like
a striker's goal.
One of his better finishes of the season, and I think like more evidence of his adaptation to this number 9 role, and just how effective he's been, and could maybe continue to be in that role. And I think over the offseason, we're going to talk a lot more about like how to approach the changes that get made to this roster, and whether Jordan is the full-time carry the load number 9 in this theoretical setup, or if they should make a signing there or whatever. But for right now, I don't know. I'm of the mind that the Jordan at the 9 experiment is working quite well. Definitely worked better this year than I thought it would. I was a big purveyor of the agenda that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And I was definitely proven wrong and took the L on that. He has a career high in MLS goals. Most goals he's scored in MLS since his rookie season, when he had 12 goals. Now he's got 13 in MLS play, and I think 16 or 17 across all comps. And he's actually approaching the single season all comps Sounders record, which I believe was Oba at 19. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So great season for Jordan Morris. He's been on fire.
Yeah. Just to note one more thing on that goal, I couldn't help but think back to, was it the Pumas game that he scored that just worldy, or was that against Minnesota? It was in Leagues Cup. He scored that like half volley kind of thing. It reminded me of this goal. Maybe one of our listeners can remind us. I couldn't remember the game, but he scored that really nice goal inside the penalty box where he kind of played it back to himself. He's getting so good with his finishing touch. Like, I know there were some people, let's just say, not going to name names, there were some people who thought that Jordan Morris should be cut from this roster. Granted, those people are dumb, but
that's a take.
There were people who were saying he's bad, he should be cut from the roster, and that it's a joke. It's a joke that he should be at the number 9. I'm sorry. That was a Rui Diaz style goal.
It was nice. And really, it should have won Seattle the game. Once you take the lead there, you're in control of the game. You're playing the worst team in MLS. You're playing at home. Like you have to see the game out from there. And I think, there's been a lot of talk about what happened that prevented that from taking place. I think they they were trying to coast to close it out a little too early. Schmetz made the subs earlier than he normally does, I feel like. And they're just they had a lot of good chances at getting the third goal, but maybe not the sense of urgency that was necessary in hindsight. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I think they put in some good service, and I just think like Jordan almost got another one that just went a little
really
bit wide.
Had a third.
Georgie was cooking. He was playing in some good passes. I mean, I think San Jose were defending not too poorly, and then the one question mark that I had, I guess, why are you subbing Nuhu off in the 86th?
Maybe he was gassed. I don't remember.
But it's like they would have played 10 more minutes.
Yeah, and he's theoretically like the skill set that you want in closing out a game.
Yeah. So that one confused me.
It's a fair question. Just the earliness of the rest of the subs in general too, because I felt like the first choice 11 that were out there had been playing really well on offense, and like you need that third goal to make sure something like this doesn't happen. But
and you don't play this weekend.
Yeah. No, all good points. Paul Marie got the equalizer in the 89th minute. The famously prolific MLS number 9, Paul Marie, who's the San Jose Earthquakes like backup left back. It was Jeremy Abobisi with a low cross, who he's been injured a lot for them this year, and his whole Quakes tenure hasn't really gone how I think he would have wanted since he went over there from Portland. But I mean, he had it was a good run by Paul Marie and a nice pass by Abobisi. I'll give him that. But it looked like Alex Roldan kind of lost his mark on Paul Marie a little bit, let him get to that near post, and he converts it, and that's a 2-2. Seattle drops 2 points at home to the San Jose Earthquakes. All right, I got some rapid fire takeaways here.
Torch them.
I'm gonna rattle these off. You can tell me what you think of these. I mean, that's just what happens when you concede a really soft goal early in the game, and then let a team hang around and you don't put them away. I had a bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
The longer it stayed 2-1, the more I was like, they're playing with fire here. Like, all it takes is one defensive lapse, one moment, and you're dropping these points right here. Like, you need to get this third goal. And the longer that they didn't do it, the more I was like, this is what happens. And that's exactly what did happen. So, it was just they didn't put this team away when they had the chance. And I think they kind of got what they deserved in that sense. Like, that's the fate that you're kind of asking for when you don't put a team away. I put this on the defense, not really the offense. I thought the offense looked pretty good in this game. I thought there was some decent carryover from the Sporting Kansas City game, which was a really excellent performance, I thought, in attack. But both of the defensive lapses were not like, it wasn't like the Quakes did anything super awesome or dynamic or revolutionary. It was really just especially the first goal.
The first one was just ugly.
That was just an ugly goal. And then the timing of the second one was, it was backbreaking. It cost you the 3-point result. So with that in mind, pretty big missed opportunity. I mean, you had multiple players using that phrase after the game. But yeah, you had the Rapids dropping points, LAFC dropping points. You could have kept pace with RSL after they won. Like I said, made a play to get up the table here and up towards not just a top 4 spot, but maybe a top 2 or 3 spot. And you kind of blew that opportunity. I guess on the positive side, those other teams that I mentioned dropping points means that like Seattle dropping points doesn't hurt them as bad as it could have. But that's also sort of what makes it a missed op. So definitely unfortunate from that standpoint. And then I think that kind of ties into my larger takeaway, which is that the home form has not been like quite what it needs to be this year. Again, it's been okay. But Seattle's home record is 7-2-6. They've drawn 6 times at home. That's too many. And the reason that's unfortunate is because they've actually been a very, very good road team this year.
Yeah.
They have 6 road wins, which that's good for any MLS season, I think like 5 to 7 is sort of what I think of as the target for how many road dubs you need to be like comfortably in playoff position, and then also be able to keep your league points per game like where you want it. Like if you're trying to be up with like the Shield teams, 5 to 7 road wins. So Seattle hit that target, and I think they have at least 1 or 2 more chances to add to that. But like the reason that they're 5th on the table and not closer to the top of the table is because 6 draws at home. That's a lot of drop points. That's a lot of drop points at home, and that's been like too much of a theme in recent years. And it would just be nice if they could combine that road form they have with the home form of old. But anyway, those are my takeaways. What do you think, those?
My biggest takeaway from this was, funny enough, as the anti-stats guy, looking at the possession stats, because the Earthquakes had more possession than the Sounders at home. What are you doing? When you're up 2-1 at home, why are you not just keeping possession, stringing passes together, working through, and bleeding the clock, but also making those attacking plays? Like the fact that they ceded so much possession to the San Jose Earthquakes to get these essentially as many chances as possible, so that, if there's a defensive lapse, like it goes in. Granted, I mean, the Sounders had 10 more shots than the Earthquakes, so it wasn't like they were making great opportunity with their possession, but it doesn't matter because it only takes one opportunity. It only takes one opportunity. And Brian Schmetzer said that as well. He said that the possession stats were just like embarrassing for him and embarrassing for a team where you need to control possession and tempo at home. And it seemed like they just weren't able to do that.
Yeah, it just the game was not well managed after they went up 2-1. I think you're right. There was too much conceding possession, too much not controlling the game state enough for being the home team and for having a lead. Just not exactly what I would call a masterclass in how to play with the lead. And Seattle, historically, that's been a strong suit for them is game management and knowing how to play with the lead, killing a game off, keeping possession when you need to. We talked about this game management stuff, I feel like, a lot more last year. And I feel like this year, for the most part, with some exceptions, that's been more of a strong suit again, but not in this game.
And my other one was the Broldans just did not look good. Both of the goals kind of were on them, not completely, but they made some defensive lapses, and I don't think they had the greatest game together combining.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would just add that I think the whole defense was
100%.
I mean, anytime that you give up last second equalizer to the worst team in the league, something has gone wrong defensively. So
yeah, that's push-ups for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's do our update on the anti-Rusnak brigade. Check in with how their pulse after this one. This is actually a pretty hot week for them. Rusnak. He did help set up the first goal. It was his service into the box that kind of led to that opportunity.
But it's not on the stat sheet, so
didn't get on the stat sheet. And also, like, I think anytime the result doesn't go Seattle's way against an inferior team, they're gonna be the brigade's gonna be hopping. So yeah, I mean, that's the update on how they're doing.
Yeah, no, I thought this was a good game for the anti-Rusnak brigade, because they say he doesn't show up for big teams. Well, now they can say he doesn't show up for any of the teams. But that said, I don't think he played poorly in this game. Like, if you look at I don't think it was his fault that the Sounders lost this game. I think it was the defense. I thought the attack played basically flawlessly. Other than they could have probably finished 1 or 2 more chances.
They scored multiple goals, and I think the nitpick critique would be that, like, you need to get the third goal, so that's what you can fault the offense for. But overall, like, that was a good enough attacking performance to win the game. They were a couple minutes from winning the game off that performance, but the defense let them down. So but that won't stop the brigade.
The brigade, their pitchforks and torches are getting hotter and closer. That's where we're at.
All right, let's hit our agenda check. I've got 4 written down for this week. Noah, you had a couple that you wanted to bring to the table, so let's go through these and then we'll hit questions. I've got two of the ones that we've been tracking, which is Georgie and De La Vega's the Savior. I'll start with Georgie, which is that Good stuff again, and fun to watch. But I'm kind of back to thinking that it's a situation where it's like potential and upside without a lot of end product.
So
right
you're on
now.
my side now.
I mean, I was saying that earlier too.
Yeah,
but,
I was just last week I was pouring cold water on it a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I've been doing the Leo Chu comparison,
Correct,
dating back a while, and that's just like. That's really, I don't mean that like in a way that it's still fun to watch, and like I'm happy to watch him play, but like there just hasn't been a lot of end product yet, and I feel like that was kind of the theme in this game. Again, some fun moments, definitely some like electrifying traits, but nothing that really came to fruition yet.
Yeah, I think he has the raw talent to be really I'm just going to say talent a million times, but like that's where it's at. It's not refined yet. And funny enough, I was talking to Dylan Tevez on the sidelines during this game, and he's like, dude, even Nuhu hates defending Georgie. Like, he's so fast. He's so athletic with the ball. And I think that's a perfect example of like, he is a menace, but that can only get you so far. Like, he's a pain in the ass, but he's only a pain in the ass to a certain point. He's still not connecting those final passes or finishing his shots or anything like that. So if he can work on that and get better in that realm, like he could be a nightmare on that side.
I think what I appreciate about him is that he's entertaining. And I think at times this year when this season has dragged for this team, there just hasn't been enough like juice and swagger and like guys having fun out there, and he kind of brings all that stuff to the table. So
he's a fun storyline to watch.
Yeah,
but I think
definitely.
Agenda. Where would you put it at? Slightly diminished, unchanged.
Yeah. Realistically, that's kind of where
pre-boiling.
Yeah. De La Vega's savior agenda. I'm gonna call diminished, man. Like I want to start seeing it. You know, I want to start seeing that end product. He gets the assist, but like he knew nothing about that.
No.
I cannot rightfully like tout that as evidence of him like realizing the quality that we thought was arriving here with his signing. But honestly, like I'm seeing pretty like a similar theme with him that I am with Georgie, and that's not really what you want, is it? Like,
no.
I think, I think we've been very deferential and accommodating of the fact that like his fitness is probably like is most definitely not like where it needs to be and where it would have to be for him to play at his full capacity. So I get all that, and I'm still willing to acknowledge all that. But he's played a few games now. It's time.
Yeah,
it's time. And I thought this game was again like it looked like kind of like Georgie out there, which is not necessarily what he's supposed to be.
And not to compare like a Toyota Corolla to a Lamborghini, but look at the amount of minutes Paul Rothrock has played and the statistical output that he's done and like been able to provide to this team, and then the same amount of minutes or less minutes, I guess, that De La Vega has provided, and just kind of the lack of end product or anything. Like Paul Rothrock was healthy, correct, but he was coming from playing on the Defiance, barely playing, maybe playing 1 game, 2 game here or there, but he was immediately able to make an impact. And it's like, your $1 million DP 23-year-old signing is blasting shots over the crossbar halfway across the field, and it's like, why are you doing that?
He did that twice. Like, where there was like an attacking phase going on, where he had runners, there was like options of stuff to do, and I think he's pressing right now a little bit. That's what that indicates to me when you see a guy like when you're lining up the Rui Diaz fadeaways and stuff. Like that's. Those are really low percentage looks, and there are better options in those situations. And like it felt like watching that, it felt like, okay, he's pressing and trying to do too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, if you look at how he was successful at Leonis, like it was that getting into the box, the interplay, the like being really talented in those small spaces with his feet. And he's not getting there. He's not doing that. He's not playing up to that potential. And For me, the agenda is incredibly diminished, if not dead. I mean, I've been saying that, but like, man, I just hope. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I'll put that out there, but I don't know. I'm not feeling good about it right now.
Yeah, I'm not ready to call it dead, just because I do think we are still at a really small sample size. But I think what I'm saying is like, you can only lean on that for so long, and we are approaching the time where we're not going to be able to lean on that anymore.
The seat is getting hot,
and we gotta just start seeing. And like, you do see good stuff in flashes. Like, I'm definitely not saying that you don't. And like, even in this game, even with like a couple of the sequences where I thought the decision making could have been better, there was still like a couple plays where he had a guy 1v1 and just mossed him, so that stuff is good to see. But like,
but this
I want to start seeing the end product.
This was his longest match since Austin, which he also played 63 minutes. You played 63 minutes against the worst defensive team in the entire league, and all you have to show for it is you got blasted off the face by a cross, and you blasted two way over the crossbar from half field. That you got to be better than that as a DP. Because respectfully, if Rusnak was doing that, the brigade would be correct. I'm just saying.
All right, you had two agendas that you purveyed that you wanted to bring to the table this week. So why don't you dish these, and I'll tell you what I think of these.
So I purveyed both of these on Twitter this week. I saw a nice little quote from Frank McDonald on Twitter where he was talking about, Schmetz won the A-League with this really good record. Or I think it was USL. I'm not sure exactly what it was. But I kind of made this comment that Brian Schmetzer should be considered one of, if not the, all-time best American coach. He has won at every level. He has won trophies that no other American coach has ever won. He has been to the Club World Cup. He will go to the Club World Cup. And what I said was he could potentially be considered one of the best coaches in the world if they're able to make a run at the Club World Cup.
This is a hot agenda. I definitely like the agenda of, or just like the premise that Schmetz doesn't really get the national recognition in the pantheon of great MLS and American coaches that he probably should. And I think the reason for that is because he's like got such hyper local ties, and he's been just like affiliated with one team for so long. I think from the outside, it might seem like I think a lot of people think he's more the product of a successful like organization as a whole than like a really great coach. And if you talk to people who follow this, they'll say, he's not really a tactician. He's more of a man manager, which is something that like I kind of believe too. Like, I think his strong suit is man managing more than necessarily being this like great tactical mind. But I'm of the belief that man managing like that is the most important part of being a coach. Like I put more weight on that ability than I do necessarily on X's and O's. And I think he's probably underrated with X's and O's as well. As far as like, it's not like he does anything innovative with his formations. He's been running a 4-2-3-1 for years and years.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, baby.
But yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And he's really good at getting buy-in from his players. And I think like the trophy case kind of speaks for itself in a way. Like you said, like no other MLS coach has won Champions League. No other MLS coach has been to the Club World Cup. And like, it just doesn't really, he doesn't get talked about like a lot of these other like revered coaches within MLS, and he should more. I think it is just a product of the fact that he's a local guy that's only ever been affiliated with one team. So there's always going to be this question of like, could he do it somewhere else?
Yeah. And one of the things that someone had replied to me and been like, oh, well, this team is average and, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, if you took, basically they were just being a hater on my agenda. And I said, if you took this roster and gave it to any other coach in the league, I promise you that none of them would have been able to sort out this mess, because you have a DP who is upset that he's not playing and is making a shitload of money. And you know who Brian Schmetzer chose to play over him? A random homegrown guy who's played like 4 matches for you and ends up being that guy. Like, there's not a lot of coaches, Wilfred Nancy included. I think he's a brilliant tactical coach, but he's even said it, people have their time when they can get signed and brought up. Like, this roster is not good, and I think Brian Schmetzer should be given a lot more credit for the placement that they're in with the way that he's been able to tactically adjust and run this roster.
It's an interesting point. Like, I have been thinking to myself more and more lately, like, Schmetz is kind of coaching his ass off this year.
Yeah.
Given the situation with Rui Diaz and where the roster's at, and how it's sort of like a time of transition, like, you could look at it like that, getting this team to 1.5, 1.6 points per game, given the sort of like flux that the roster is in right now, there's an argument to be made, at least, that's actually a pretty good coaching achievement.
Coach of the year.
It's at least an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I agree. That is my first agenda. In this next one, Ari, this one's probably my hottest take of all time, and also a little bit facetious and funny and not super real, but I did want to dish it because content. Jordan Morris is Messi agenda.
Okay.
Jordan Morris currently has the same number of non-penalty goals as Messi. So he's basically Messi. That's what I'm going to say. And if you remember back in 2016 or 17, the Sounders posted the photo of Jordan Morris holding up the scarf and Messi holding up the scarf in the same spot. And there was hate and all of this stuff. But Jordan Morris is Messi agenda.
So they both have 13 non-penalty goals? Okay. I think you might have a hard time getting this agenda going mainstream, particularly among the U.S. men's national team fan base. They might not be a fan of that take, but yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm not gonna yuck your yum on that.
On a more serious note, though, Jordan Morris at the 9 agenda related. This production has been incredible. Would you say? Like, I think he is fully and 100% cemented his place at the 9. I don't know. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's going to be an interesting storyline to track over the offseason, how exactly they approach that. But I think he's definitely making a case that he's a high-level, productive, carry-the-load MLS number 9. Really, there's just kind of been like a different juice about his game this year, especially in the last like couple months. Like, I was noticing last night, like he complains to the ref so much more than he used to, which is not necessarily a good thing. Like, I always thought Dempsey did that like too excessively, to the point where it's like, all right, you're literally just bitching at the ref the entire game. You can probably give it a rest at some point. So I don't necessarily, but like with Jordan, I like to see it, because he's had this nice guy persona for so long, and he has shedded that in the last month or two, I feel like, and it's been pretty fun to see. And it's also just kind of the sort of like angry Jordan is like oh yeah, okay, all right, it's like this now, and I think it's making him play better. Like, I think it might actually be making him play better.
He's playing with rage. I love it.
Angry Jordan
agenda.
Yeah, that's a good new agenda. But I was thinking about that again last night. Just even after he scored the second goal, he was strutting around and it was like the equivalent of like a bat flip.
Yeah,
like,
it was
on
pretty
a homer.
sick.
Yeah,
he was chirping all the way. He ran from one side of the field to the other and then back up, and he was still like nodding his head and stuff.
Complaining to the refs, pimping his goals, talking trash to the other team. It's just all stuff that you like never used to see him do.
No,
and I think it's sick as hell. All right, I think that'll do it for Agenda Check. We've got some questions from you, the people. What do we got this week, Noah?
Questions from you all lobbed in Ari's mentions after the match. Here we go, starting with Chad. Hot take. De La Vega has a ton of potential to become a special player, but we're not seeing enough of it right now. At this moment, our best 11 has Rothrock and Georgie in the wide positions.
I think you hit on it, Chad. We were just sort of talking about it, but like, whether it's fitness with De La Vega right now or whatever the case may be, I don't think there's any doubt that the best first choice 11 for this team right now has Rothrock in it. And then, I guess Georgie versus De La Vega, that's kind of a wash for me, but that's sort of the point, is that shouldn't be a wash.
Yeah.
Like, that should be like De La Vega should be starting there, no question. Like, they shouldn't be offering you like this roughly the same idea, man. That's not how it should be. So the fact that that's even a take that has legs, I think, is not necessarily good. But I don't know. I don't want it to make it seem too much like we're writing or I'm writing De La Vega off completely, man.
Because then he won't write back.
Yeah, exactly. But he, I don't know. I think that Chad has it right that like the best 11 has Rothrock and Georgie out wide. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to that.
No, I mean, definitely Rothrock. Georgie, I don't know. I don't know where to sit on this. I think I'm in agreement with the fact that the possibility of this even having legs with your bajillion dollar DP is a little concerning, but we will continue to see what Schmetz rolls out there. This next one comes from Sounders Dan. 4 games this year, we have dropped 2 points after the 85th minute. That is way too many and brings into question Schmetzer's late game decisions, both strategically and tactically. We just went on a pro Schmetzer rant, Ari. How are you going to respond to this bad boy?
I mean, that's not a good stat. But I mean, like, how much of that is coaching and how much of that is like execution from the
I don't think
players?
this game was coaching.
Yeah, because like there are teams who do that. Like, remember the Chicago Fire? Like this,
Correct.
What the Sounders did in this game was the classic Chicago Fire.
Correct.
They do that every single week. They do that 4 times in a month, not 4 times in a season. Frankly, 4 games out of 34, if they say they make it through, 4 games out of 34 where you're leading late and you give up the lead, give up the equalizer, that is too many, but honestly not radically more than I would expect over the course of a really long season with a ton of games where just a lot of different stuff is going to happen. And like results are going to flip on you like that at least a couple times a year. So I agree that 4 is too many, but I don't see that. I actually don't see that stat as like hyper egregious. I think what's egregious in this game is that you did it against the Quakes when you were trying to move up the table.
Yeah.
More than that's the issue here, more than it being like an overarching theme of the season, which I don't think them blowing leads has been like a top issue this year.
No, I agree. I think if you want to point to something where Brian was making poor strategic and tactical decisions, it was it RBW was on that yellow when he eventually got sent off. I think it might have been against Sporting.
Yeah.
The fact that he left him out there knowing that he was just coming back from injury and all of that. We tore into him for that.
We were critical of that one.
But he took responsibility for that in those following weeks. And I think we even noted that his substitutions had completely changed after that moment. And he had made it pretty clear that he was looking inward on that result and took responsibility for that. But I would not say that this result was because of any kind of substitutions or strategy. I think it was players not putting the game away and just like maybe you could say some of the sub patterns were wrong, which I think is fair, but it's like that game should have been put away earlier and just some really bad lapses in the defense, like letting your man get goal side. That's defending 101. Like I would teach that to 6th graders, like that's just bad defending. This next one here comes from Richard Bullock. Should the coach rip into the players for throwing that dub away?
I mean, I guarantee you he did, at least to an extent. Like I think any coach would. I mean, because that's criminal. Like to give that game away. Like when anytime you give a lead away, like post 80th minute, the coach is the vein in his forehead is going to burst. So I doubt it was all that fun of a post game locker room. I don't know if Schmetz is like a big like I'm gonna rip into you type of
throw
coach,
the clipboard,
but I don't think he's not
like Siggy
that
was.
type of guy as much as Ziggy was. But I guarantee you that he was unhappy with how that game ended, and I guarantee you that he let the squad know about it.
Oh yeah, he was definitely clicking his pen rapidly in that locker room. But I don't think that's the type of coach he is. But also, I don't think any of them got away with it. And I know that most of them are going to be really disappointed with that result. No one's sitting there like, oh, it's fine. It's fine, But this last one here comes from Dan. We keep saying the Sounders are good, but can you call a team good who doesn't beat the worst team in the league? Agenda nomination. Georgie should start over PDLV. We're cutting that agenda. We already talked about that, Dan.
We did.
Come on.
We did talk about that agenda, but I think for that first part, he's referencing the discussion we had on the last show where we were saying that the Sounders were a pretty good team. Dan's saying, can they be good if they don't beat the worst team in the league, which they lost to the Quakes earlier this season, and then they choked the lead away to draw in this one. What I would say is I think we were, at least I was looking at it more on the whole body of work this season than one individual game. What I will tell you all is like, this stuff happens in MLS like as much as any league. This league, like the worst team in the league can beat the best team in the league on any given day because of like just how much parity there is within the league. So you're definitely like, you're not like entitled to any results against any team, no matter who you play in this league. That's just how it works to an extent. And there are games where you're playing a team where you might think that you're way better, have way more talent. You're playing at home, whatever the case may be.
You might have more talent.
And you like in this case, Seattle had way more talent than the Quakes had out there. Quakes had like also like in addition to being the worst team in the league, they had like 13 guys on their injury report going into this game. They're decimated, and they still got a result in this game. Like Seattle botched it for sure, and we talked about that, but like it's just there are no guaranteed results in MLS, and that's why I think it's more instructive to look at like the overall record, the points per game, and stuff like that, as opposed to just looking at a couple results against specifically the Quakes and basing your take on the team purely off that. Like when I look at this team, I see a team that's won 13 games this year, and that's played at roughly a 1.5 to 1.6 points per game pace for most of the year, which is not up to the standard that we expect from Seattle, but is certainly not like I just don't think it's like a terrible team. I see that as like a mid to sometimes pretty good MLS team. That's how I rate them, and I stick to that.
We're not lying. We're not saying like this is the MLS Cup contending team. We're saying this is a good, not great, not elite team. This is a team that is good. I don't think that losing to the worst team in the league on one given day, or drawing a team in the last few minutes because of a really bad defensive error, is going to dictate how you're going to do in the playoffs, or how you're going to do in a tournament, or what the body of work is. Is it concerning? Yes. I think it's equally as concerning as not being able to beat LAFC, because it's like your two poles of you can't beat the worst team and you can't beat the best team. It's tough scenes, I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think of it on a base level is like 1.4 to 1.6 points per game. You're mid to pretty good, depending on where you fall on that spectrum. Seattle's at 1.57 right now, so that's exactly where I would put them. 1.7 and above, that's like where the very good to elite teams are. Like the Supporter Shield winners are always up towards 2. And then I think if you're like 1.2 and below, that's where you start to get to like bad. And, like San Jose's at 0.62.
Yeah,
so that's I mean,
and half of those 0.062 is from the Sounders. That's sort of
the thing. Like when people talk about how trash the Sounders are, like you guys could be Quakes fans. You could be Chicago Fire fans.
There were Quakes fans at this game, folks.
Yeah. Like you could be a fan of a team that's at way less than a point per game. Like 1.57 is like not that bad. It's not elite, but it's not that bad.
And it's like, it's not to say or hand wave away that you aren't entitled to feel frustrated. You absolutely are. Like, I think we're both just as frustrated with this match. I mean, the vibe in the press box after this game was like, God damn it. But, that's not to say, like, let's not lose sight of the fact that this isn't just some dumpster of a team. Like, with some changes, it could be a contending team easily.
All right, let's move on to Blazing Hot Coach Press Conference of the Week, new segment that officially debuted last week, and we've got a pretty topical one.
It's very topical,
week.
yeah.
Brian Schmetzer of the Seattle Sounders is our Blazing Hot Coach Press Conference of the Week. You know, it was funny. I was saying that I couldn't find one this week before we started recording, and Noah was like, I think it's Schmetz. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't think it was like blazing hot, but I think it was the hottest out of the coach press conferences that I watched this week. And I mean, he was pissed.
He was very upset.
He was not happy.
Yeah.
I would not expect him to be.
He wasn't throwing things. That's not him. But like he was doing
I mean, yeah. So we've been playing highlights. Should we slap down some Schmetz audio here and you guys can listen for yourselves if you haven't peeped it yet. Here's Brian Schmetzer post game after the Quakes game last night as this week's Blazing Hot Coach Press Conference of the Week.
You know, where is the group leadership at 2-1 to connect a bunch of passes and just kill the game with good possession, make them chase the ball, you know, no extended. They're 55% to 45% possession. That's not good enough. When you're up 2-1, I get it. The team that's up by a goal, you know, kind of drops in or, you know, does whatever they can to hold on to the lead, but not here at home. We're actually the home team. And I don't care if it's 2-1. We should be controlling tempo and creating the chances that we did. I accept all the responsibility for the substitutions and the starting lineup, for sure. But those two goals were not great goals to give up. Not at all. Not at all. First one, you know, giveaway. Second giveaway, you know, lands to their best guy. You know, the decision for Steph to come out. You know, is he thinking about the last play that he had? You know, just the defending inside the box, life or death. Second one was even worse. You know, we train how to defend against players running into that zone. You know, center back covers it if they can. Midfielders have to chase sometimes. But then the responsibility of the two center backs to cover their areas when the ball's coming across, you know, I'm not pinning that all on Alex. This guy came from over his shoulder. You know, that's a team goal that's just poor in a lot of different areas.
All right, yeah, so not happy.
No.
Not
he
happy.
was very upset. I was actually in that room for that one, Ari. If you haven't noticed, I was
in person Blazing Hot Coach Presser.
I was in person for this one. So I'll give you a little rundown. He was not happy. I mean, answering questions, just like, I mean, if you're watching the YouTube podcast, he's just, you know, he was bewildered. I feel like he was frustrated. He was, you know, someone asked him about his substitution. He's like, I'll take responsibility. I don't care. You know, as you just heard, like he was,
I think
very unhappy.
I think both him and the players like realized like what a missed op this was.
Yeah.
And
you can't give those up.
Yeah,
you can't give up
it's
those
just-
points if you want to contend.
It's bad. 2 bad points to drop. All right, let's hop around the league, do some winners and losers, and then get out of here. Does that sound good, Noah?
Let's do it.
All right. There's a bunch of games.
There were
midweek, so a lot to talk about here. The Philly Union continue to be low key kind of back. They absolutely obliterated NYCFC at Yankee Stadium. 5-1.
Yankee with no brim?
Yeah. This guy, Ty Baribo, their striker, Israeli striker, he's like been one of the hottest number 9s in the league for a while now, and he was balling out in Leagues Cup, and it's transferred over. And the Philly Union are they're kind of back. God, remember that glorious stretch where they were taking the most insane comical L's possible every single week? That was weird, but it seems to be over.
They went through like the 9 plagues. They went through everything.
That's right.
They had
the raccoons,
the floods, the like everything, power outages. It was insane.
And now they're back, but like NYCFC, they've been pretty like hot and cold this year, but they're a pretty good team, and they're also really hard to beat at you pretty much never see them lose like that at Yankee Stadium, because like they have such a home field advantage because of the dimensions and stuff there. Like that was definitely you just don't see that very often. Portland Timbers.
Timbies.
Sorry, folks. I'm going to have to do it. They beat the LA Galaxy, who are first in the West, 4-2. And so the national pundits are like all over the Evander for MVP agenda.
Would be funny.
Yeah.
It would be funny.
It's unfortunately, it turns out like we were calling him a bot earlier in the season, but he's pretty damn good.
He was a bot like last season and early this season.
He still does have a little bit of that attribute of playing like a bot and then just coming up with an absolute worldie out of nowhere. But he's
a great character.
Yeah, he's a fun little character, and I think it's fair to say that he's quite a bit better than we were giving him credit for earlier this season. But, if the rest of the national pundit class is going to purvey the Evander for MVP agenda, that's only going to fuel our Rusnak for MVP agenda.
Correct.
Even though, Evander's at... He's at like 14 and 18 or something right now.
Jesus.
So he's having a hell of a year.
So he's like low key, like
he's low key probably actually has a good MVP
on a team with the world's worst coach ever too.
Yeah,
like an actively bad roster.
Well, the way I see their roster is it's a really good offense and just kind of a sketchy as hell defense.
Yeah,
which I think. If there's going to be anything that derails their chances of trophy contending with this team, it would be that, because I feel like they can kind of score goals with anybody.
Yeah.
Nashville SC, they beat the Fire 1-0, which isn't all that impressive, but they've kind of turned it around.
BJ Callahan, he's turning it around,
the
baby.
Guru is turning it around, and
the bot's favorite.
They might be back in the mix as well. All right, and I got the losers here to close it out. Seattle Sounders drew the San Jose Earthquakes at home.
Famously.
That's a good way to get in this section. But I mean, in all seriousness, we already talked about it, but they were gifted an opportunity to climb up the table and get themselves right back in that top four mix. They're still in the mix for a top four spot, so it's all to play for this team. But to be that close to seeing out another dub and climbing up the table towards that like second or third place spot, and then to blow it like that, tough.
Yeah.
On the positive side for Seattle, I also got LAFC and then this kind of is relevant to what we were talking about earlier. Like, can we call Seattle good because they drew the San Jose Earthquakes at home? I mean, can we call LAFC good if they draw Austin FC at home? Because that's exactly what they did. And I would still call LAFC pretty good. I mean, I know, but I know it's different because LAFC's been ahead of Seattle all year, but like LAFC is 2 points ahead of Seattle's pace right now. We talk about LAFC like they're the buzzsaw of all buzzsaws, and they do have a couple games in hand. So that is fair to point out. But like, I'm just saying, like, the results like that can happen to anybody. And Austin FC is not good, and they went into LAFC and they took a point too. So
they're fighting for a playoff spot here. I don't think they'll make it, but they're sure fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to make it. They're 4 points off Minnesota United right now. So it's looking like Austin, Dallas, and the Club of Professional Wrestling Enthusiasts are all going to miss the playoffs this year.
And St. Louis and San Jose. Let's not forget about our losers.
Well, I mean, they've been out of it for a while.
True.
I was talking about the teams that were theoretically still
Can
in
you
it.
imagine having 18 points and half of those coming from the Sounders?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Yeah, if the Quakes hadn't taken any points off the Sounders this year, they would be at like what, 14 points on the year?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then the last one I had was Toronto FC. They got bammed on 2-0 by the Crew at home, and
not everyone can beat them, folks.
Yeah, and I haven't heard if the Crew had a backup goalkeeper for this game. I'm not sure, but maybe not. All right, that was all I had for the Around the League stuff. Did you have any other news items or takes or anything you wanted to hit? Or
nothing right now. Let's wrap her up.
Out of here. All right, that'll do it for episode 66. Thank you all, as always, so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all our listeners and our new viewers from our new audience on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Everyone sub to the YouTube. Get us to 600 subs. That's the next frontier. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Rate 5 stars.
Share with Evander.
Share with Evander. Share with Phil Neville.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to call it. Until next time, we out.
Peace.